Hello Finxters. In this video we will explore how to install Ghostscript on numerous different platforms and operating systems. So what is Ghostscript? Before we understand that, we'll first need to review a little bit about Postscript. Postscript is a page description language. So it is a language that describes how to draw and display documents. It's used for desktop publishing. So when you want to print really high quality documents, desktop publishing and things like Postscript documents are the kinds of things that you would use. In addition, PDF is essentially an extension of Postscript, which extends the features that Postscript brings. The way Postscript operates, it's kind of similar to many interpreted programming languages. So Postscript documents consist of human-readable commands in the document that describe how to draw the document. And then an interpreter interprets that written language and renders the document either to the screen or to a printer. Ghostscript is just such an interpreter. It's an interpreter that interprets Postscript and PDF documents, and as mentioned, it renders documents to the screen or to the printer. So why would you want to install it? Well, you may simply have a program that needs it. Some programs require Ghostscript to do the document interpreting work. Even if you don't have a program that needs it, it can be useful in and of itself. As an interpreter, it will implement commands that can process or modify documents, Postscript documents and PDF documents. And even more useful, it implements language binding APIs that allow other languages to modify Postscript and PDF documents. And supported languages that do that are C#, Java, and Python, and that allows programmers to write their own programs to modify PDFs. Before trying to install Ghostscript, it makes sense to check and see if you already have it on your system. An easy way to do that is to try and run it. We have here a Linux system, and for Unix-based systems like Mac OS X and Linux, the command to run Ghostscript is gs, and what we'll do is type gs-h. What that does is try to start the program and show the help information. And as you can see, help information is showing here. If Ghostscript was not installed, you would get an error indicating that instead. So this demonstrates that this system already has Ghostscript installed. Obviously, if it's not, then you need to go ahead and prepare to install it. In the case of Windows systems, the command is gswin32 or gswin64, depending on whether you have 32-bit or 64-bit systems. Most systems these days are 64-bit. We won't implement that here because we're not on a Windows system. So to install Ghostscript to Windows, we go to this website, and we will be downloading a self-extracting installing program, either 32-bit or 64-bit. Most machines these days are 64-bit. 32-bit if you're using an older machine. And this XXXX is the version number. So if the current version was 955.0, the file that would be getting downloaded would be this one for the 64-bit. Here we are on the Ghostscript download page, and we will scroll down to the download links. Most people will be interested in 64-bit because most machines these days are 64-bit. You could choose 32-bit if you have an older machine. We'll go ahead and click on this link and download the file. Here's the downloaded file. We'll double click on it to get it started. And we follow the install script prompts to get the installation done. One of the ways to install Ghostscript is to compile it from source code. Honestly, this should probably be a last resort if other methods don't work. Most Unix systems have much easier ways of installing Ghostscript, which we'll go over later. But this is a method that is suggested by the documentation at the Ghostscript site, so we'll go over it briefly. First, you have to download the source code at this web page, the download web page. Here we are on the download page for Ghostscript, and we can see a listing of downloads that are available, some Windows, some Linux. We're actually going to download the source. One of the things you have to choose between is which license. Do you want a commercial license or a general public license? Most users will want the general public license for casual use. If you have commercial applications, you may need to review that in more detail. For this case, we will download the general public license, and we'll right click on this and save link as, and then save it to download. And here we are, the file has downloaded. And with most systems, you'll be able to double click this file to unarchive and unzip it, which will do that. And now we'll navigate to the contents of the unarchived source code. And now we will open a terminal where we will do the rest of our work. Now we won't actually run these commands, we'll just show them because when I install Ghostscript on this system, we will use the simpler method that I mentioned before, rather than this compiling method. But I'll at least show the commands that you use. So first thing you do is type and press enter to run configure. What this does is goes and looks at your system to see how it's configured, how it needs to configure the program for compiling. Basically, it gets ready for compiling. Then when that's finished, you type make, and make actually does the compiling of the program. So that converts it from programming language text files to an actual binary that can be read and run by the CPU, the computer. And then when that's finished, type this, sudo make install. And that actually takes the binary compiled program and places it in the correct locations on your computer. Now, this approach should probably be used as a last resort. The configure program is designed for how most computers are configured, but sometimes, there's a possibility your computer might be configured slightly differently, and this approach may fail, and you may get errors. And then you have to troubleshoot to find out what went wrong. So that can be a bit more work. So again, this really should be a last resort approach if other simpler approaches do not work. The easiest way to install Ghostscript on Mac is to use the Homebrew or MacPorts systems. These are package management systems that make installing software easier, and they also make accessible to Mac the wide variety of open source applications that are available. We won't do a full install here. Instead, we'll just show the commands. To install using Homebrew, type this command, install brew install Ghostscript. For Mac ports, type this command, sudo port install Ghostscript. Here is the easier installation method that I referred to earlier. Most distributions now distribute software through what are called repositories. These are essentially centrally gathered collections of binary software that you can install essentially with as easily as a click of a button, just like something like the App Store that you find with Mac and other operating systems. A nice interface for downloading readily available software. The distribution I'm using is called Antix Linux, and this distribution is descended from Debian, and here is one way to use graphical user interface to download software from the repositories. It's called Synaptic, and you can see there's a variety of software categories you can search. I can also just plain search for what I'm interested in, which in this case is Ghostscript. And it has found a number of packages that include Ghostscript in the name. And here is Ghostscript, not installed right now. So I can click on it to mark it for installation. And it tells me that there are some changes that will need to be made. And I go ahead and mark that. So other packages, dependent packages, will be marked for installation as well. and then I click apply, and again confirm with apply, and that will install Ghostscript. If you were using most other distributions, things like Ubuntu, many of them have a much nicer graphical user interface, much more like an app store where you have nice icons to navigate through to select your software. But again, this kind of graphical user interface can be used for installing software. Using graphical applications to install software is very easy, but an even faster way to get software installed is to use command line and issue command to install software. And that's what we'll do now. Sudo apt install Ghostscript. So we issued the command and it is downloading the software. And that's it. Ghostscript is installed. Another Linux operating system you may be using is CentOS 7 or some other Red Hat or Fedora-based distribution. That also has a central repository. Those also have central repositories of software like the Debian families do. And again, you can typically use graphical installers for those as well. But again, the fastest way is usually to use command line installs. And we won't install it here because I'm not using Red Hat managed or Fedora operating system, but we'll show you the command. It is sudo yum install Ghostscript, and that would install Ghostscript on your system. Perhaps you're a data scientist accustomed to using Anaconda for analyzing data, and you're more comfortable in the Anaconda environment than you are using operating system. Well, you can still install Ghostscript from within Anaconda. Open the Anaconda shell and use the following command: conda install -c conda forge Ghostscript. Ghostscript can also be installed in Google Colab. The cells in Google Colab are like the Python shell, in effect. So we can use the exclamation mark to do operating system shell commands from these cells, and so we can do a Ghostscript install that way. And the operating system underlying Google Colab is like Ubuntu, so we can use the same command as was used for Ubuntu to install Ghostscript. So exclamation mark apt install Ghostscript. In this video, we have reviewed ways to install Ghostscript in numerous platforms and operating systems. We hope you found this informative and enjoyable. We wish you happy coding.